Happy New Year, everyone! Welcome to a brand new year, the same shenanigans, where I have, over the holiday season, managed to acquire tons and tons of cardboard. Because where we live doesn't recycle. Yes, really, doesn't recycle. I figured, why not recycle it myself? So there are a few things I need to fix. First of all, I've been noticing the side of my fridge is not whimsical like I need it to be, because it does not match the rest of my kitchen that I redid. And I also have this thing that I've been meaning to frame since my husband and I got married in 2021 that I have never framed, so why not make a frame for that too? And of course, as always, we are trying to keep it feeling like it came from a different time, from a different world, and something that we are going to use and keep forever and ever and ever. So, without any further ado, let's hop straight on into it. I am super excited for this one. And also a little nervous. I decided to begin by doing a square because in my mind I thought something completely symmetrical would be way easier than a rectangle for some reason. So I used the inside cardboard that came with our calendar for this year because it was already square, and in my mind I was like, that takes away some of the pressure to make a perfect square. And I actually measured for once. So here I am with a measuring tape, actually measuring. I believe I did like 3 centimeters all the way around. This just made it so that I had a number to work with, and that wasn't a decimal, like it would have been if I had done inches. And from there, I finally took Cass P's advice, which has been left on my channel a few times now, is to use a box cutter and not scissors to cut cardboard. And honestly, I don't know why I haven't been doing this up until now. It was so much easier. So thank you so much. I do really, really appreciate the tips. And if anyone ever has any advice, go ahead and leave it in the comments. It might take me like over a year to get to it, but I'll eventually try it, and I'll probably see that you were right. I then cut out the center of the square, and I did kind of mess up here, so if you're going to do this yourself, take note that if you want to cut out the center, you want to cut it slightly smaller than the image that you're going to be putting into the frame so that the image stays and doesn't fall out. I do correct that for the Polaroid, but since this was my first attempt, I did not do that here, so just take note of that. For the backing of this frame and for the Polaroid frames I made, I used this box from this UFO lamp that my parents gave us. It was the perfect thickness for this, and honestly, I have a lot of it left over, so maybe I will be using it for more stuff in the future. But basically, I cut the back so that it fit the frame, and then I used little strips to lift the back of the frame so that there's room to slide the image into the frame. And I've finally gotten over my hatred of hot glue, and so using hot glue I connected all of it together, and I checked to make sure that everything fit, and it was time to move on. Using a pencil, I went in and I actually drew my own image for once. Usually my husband is the one who does any kind of drawing designs for me when it comes to my art, but he was busy playing a Pokemon game he got for Christmas, and so I wasn't one to disrupt him. So after staring at it for quite a long time, I did vines up the sides and then this like cursive S design that I started doing in elementary school. If you were to open up any given notebook from like 4th grade, you would see this design all over it. And so I kind of decided to like immortalize it in my decor, in my grown-up decor. And because the song Disco Snails is constantly stuck in my head at the moment, like everyone else, I put 2 little snails at the bottom. The original project I had for this week, I was going to be making little paper mache snails for above my door, but I ended up not doing that just due to a few issues that came up with that project. So look out for that in the future. For the sake of ease, I decided to use hot glue for the 3D elements of my frame. I have made frames before, and I used a compound of wall filler, paint, and Elmer's glue, which was super easy, and it does have its advantages, but due to my current condition of being pregnant, I needed something that was quick and easy and would dry within a reasonable amount of time instead of waiting multiple days for it to dry. The only drawback to hot glue is the fact that you cannot go in and touch it with your hand and correct how it is after you've put it down. Like, how you put it down is how it's going to be. Whereas with the compound that I used last time, I could go in and mess with it for a while and then it would dry however I had messed with it, almost like a clay. So there are pros and cons to both methods. Then it was time to make the frames for the Polaroids, and I actually made a whole one, but I completely messed it up because I forgot to add the fabric, so Owen gets to paint one. But actually making one that I was going to use, I measured out the size that I wanted for the frame. I wanted to keep the picture itself more in the image rather than the actual Polaroid itself, if that makes sense. So using it, I measured out the size of block that I wanted, and then I marked where the actual photo is on the camera. That way the frame itself covers the bottom and the top enough to keep it in and still have the image shown. Because I was making 6 of these Polaroid frames, I went through and I cut out the first part of these frames all at once. So I cut out 6 identical frames. And as they went, they started to look a little funky, but never let this channel fool you into thinking we are going for perfection. We are going for cozy and authentic and homemade and things that I am going to keep in my house. I think striving for perfection is fine, but never let it actually steal your joy from actually doing a craft that you want to do. Why would you let it steal that joy when it doesn't ever feel good enough? So I have given up on perfect and I am just going for joy. I also recently learned this hack where if you want to paint on hot glue, you need to prime it first with something so that the paint sticks to it. And for this, I chose Mod Podge because that's what I pick for all of my projects. And honestly, this worked fantastic. I was very pleasantly surprised. Then it was time to pick fabric for my Polaroids, and I was given this whole bundle of fabric from a former quilter who was no longer quilting. And honestly, I've had it for over a year and I've never used any of it. So I was super excited to finally have the opportunity to use it. You can see this 4th fabric here with the roses. I ended up not using it just because I wasn't sure the big pattern would come across on the little frames. Something that I never quite got down with this project was measuring so that I didn't have too much fabric left over. So with all these, I ended up struggling where I had a lot of extra fabric, and you can't really tell in this video here, but the edges of this particular blue fabric had actually already been folded and sewn, like they were already finished. And I decided just to cut over them, which ended up making these 2 frames super bulky in that area. So if I were to redo this, I would say definitely seam rip and don't use pre-folded fabric. I went ahead and I batched all of these again, so I went through and I cut the fabric before doing anything else so that I was doing the same step for each frame at the same time. I feel like this isn't something I usually do when I do projects with multiple things. I tend to finish one and then move on to the next and finish that one before moving on. But I cannot confirm, but this felt very different for me. Then I went and I hot glued all of the edges, and I have seen people make their corners look really pretty. I could not figure out how to do that, so mine are quite bulky looking, but that's okay because they're on the back. You're not going to see them. And ask me, how many times did I burn myself doing this? Because the answer is quite a lot. Quite often. But all in all, this was not very hard to do. It took some time, sure, but honestly, if I had started this earlier the first day, I probably could have gotten this all done in one day, which you love a good, easy one-day project. I mean, you can make something that you're going to have and you're going to like it, and it doesn't take very long, nor is it very expensive, so that seems like a win-win to me. The only thing that I had to buy for this video was this magnet tape, and that's because we did not have any magnets on hand that I could hot glue to the back of these frames, and since they're going on my fridge, I want them to also be functional and be able to hold things like shopping lists and whatnot. And honestly, this tape was super easy to use. I found it to be super easy to cut through, which I was a little concerned about, and it worked great. We finally got to the fun part of the square frame where I got to start painting it. This is a terracotta red. I had originally thought of going with a brown, but ended up looking like cardboard, and since this is cardboard and I already have brown frames, I decided to go with a little bit of a splash of color. I really like it, and I think it actually matches the painting itself really well. Since the painting has red mushrooms with soot sprites on it, it just kind of fit the vibe. In all, I think this took about 3 layers of this terracotta red paint, just because the cardboard itself was soaking up a ton of the paint. In the future, I would go in and seal it beforehand, all with Mod Podge instead of just the hot glue to help negate the soaking in. Then it was time for the less fun part for the fabric frames where I had to add in the backing. Again, I used pieces of cardboard to make a space where I would be able to put the Polaroid between the front of the frame and the backing. I just did this by eyeballing some pieces of cardboard and then actually cutting them on the actual frame. This worked really, really well. I will say it was weirdly time consuming. Like, it shouldn't have taken as long as it did, but it was getting kind of late and I was getting kind of tired. But it worked super, super well. I don't know if there's another way people do this when they do fabric frames. Not that I have personally seen. I also can't say that I've like watched a ton of videos on other people doing this. I think I watched like one and I was like, I could do that. From there, it's time to add the backing, and I just did this by cutting cardboard down to size and hot gluing it to the back of the newly hot glued spacers. This was rinse and repeat for all 6 of them, and when I had completed that, it was time to put the magnets on the back, and because these were like magnet stickers, that was super, super easy. And when I was done with that, it was time to move on to the finishing touches for the painted frame. After some casual debate with myself about what colors I wanted to do the raised bits of the hot glue, I decided to go with kind of like the natural look that they would be, so green for the vines, and then I picked kind of a gold gilding for the cursive S pattern, and for my little snails I picked a tannish brown, which just fits so perfect. I don't know. In some ways it's kind of giving like circus big top, but I'm not mad about it. It's just kind of an unexpected side effect of the colors that I picked for this. After that, it was kind of a game of hurry up and wait, waiting for the paint to dry, and that takes us to the reveal. They are complete, and let's kind of go over what went well, what didn't. First of all, I am super, super happy with all of these. I think they look super great. If you watch my kitchen redo, you know that I painted a wall green. These happen to match perfectly, so that went great. And then I also wanted kind of a variation. I was hoping I had like a red plaid because there's like that color theory thing where if you add a piece of red to a place that you don't really expect to see red, then it kind of like adds interest to the space. But I don't have any red that's like not like solid Christmas bright red, and I'm kind of over Christmas right now. Ignore that if you could see it. And then, as far as this goes, I am happy with it. I will say hot glue is kind of a pain to work with. I will say that. I had forgotten that I had to hang it up, so last minute I hot glued one of the pieces of scrap fabric from this to the back, kind of as a temporary solution, but actually it works really well and it looks fine. So it's like that until further notice. I did see some people who make like a side where they expand this all the way, so if it's the entire frame, and then you can like make a side for it so it doesn't look like cardboard, which if I had been thinking about I would have done, but because I wasn't thinking about it at the time, I'm not too overly concerned. But I I'm super happy with them. Just adding more whimsy to my stuff and not spending a whole ton of money. We had to buy the magnets, they're like $4, and I'm not adding to a whole lot of waste. I still have a bunch of cardboard that I think I will unfortunately be throwing out because we don't have room to save it. We're in a small place, we have another baby on the way, so unfortunately I can't do my normal hoarding that I usually do. But that being said, I managed to save some of it from being in the landfill, and I will have it until further notice. So, if you enjoy impractical crafts and lifestyle content, I am your channel. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I will be seeing you for my next video.